Hello, my fellow YouTubers and subscribers, and welcome to my latest movie review. Yes, it's been a while since I've done a movie review, and I felt I better give something back to my subscribers who aren't Doctor Who fans, as I've been really putting time into my Doctor Who reviews, and also his Dark Materials as well. So today's movie review is a fantasy movie that I watched a few years ago when I was 11, I think is when it came out, The Spiderwick Chronicles, starring Freddie Highmore and Sarah Bolger, and was directed by Mark Waters, released in 2008. So The Spiderwick Chronicles, this is actually a Nickelodeon movie, so it's like a sort of family kids fantasy movie, and it was based on, I believe, a series of books, although I'm not entirely sure because I haven't read any of the books, so I'm a bit unfamiliar with the source material. But as for the film, the plot is basically that it centres around this family called the Grace family, specifically the kids, Jared and Simon, who are twins, and then Mallory, their sister, and the mum. They've just been through a bit of a family breakdown. The parents have just divorced, and they've moved to this old house, which was previously owned by their great aunt or something. And it turns out the house is on the doorstep of this magical world, and this world has been documented by their great-great-uncle, Arthur Spiderwick. And he has written everything down in this field guide, and the guide is found by Jared, who finds it in a footlocker. And they discover there's this evil ogre called Molgarath who wants the book for his own personal gain, and they basically have to defend their house and seek help in order to stop the goblins and the ogre from retrieving the book. So, The Spiderwick Chronicles. This is an interesting film, I would say. I think this is one of those fantasy movies that is kind of forgotten now. I think this movie tried a bit too hard to be like, you know, sort of Harry Potter or Narnia or Lord of the Rings. I will say this, it's better than The Golden Compass. I'll say that. To me, this is a fantasy movie that just, while it's good, it's decent. It does fall kind of short for me. For me, the biggest problem I have with this film is the world building. I think, quite honestly, there is potential for a fantastic world here. The magical world looks really cool. And obviously, a lot of it's been documented in this field guide. But we don't get to know too much about the world itself, other than that there's fairies and wonderful things in it. We don't get told anything, really. All we know is that Jared reads the book, and yeah, there's goblins and ogres and fairies and hobgoblins as well. So I did feel like the lack of world building really lets this movie down, and it just feels like they kind of just rushed into this story, and basically it ended up just being a fun romp of a movie, which is fine. Obviously for kids that's totally fine, they just want to be entertained. It just would have allowed so much more immersion into this movie if we were allowed to know more about the world, but sadly that's not the case. We do also have quite an interesting family dynamic, and obviously the parents are divorced, and we focus mainly on Jared and his reaction to the whole thing. I mean, he's angry about the divorce, and he kind of hates his mum, and then he has a very close relationship to his dad, but then he realizes after a while that his dad is no good. He always argues with his brother and sister, more with his sister than his brother, but yeah. So the kids, you've got Jared. Like I said, he's a bit angry. He's the sort of hothead of the group. He's quite rebellious, sort of teenager. Simon is his twin brother, who's very clever. He's a nerd, and he definitely likes the the more scientific things in life. And then you have Mallory, who's the girl, who's their sister. She's the eldest. She's actually a fencer, and she's won some medals for that as well. And it's kind of cliche, you know, in the beginning, they all don't get along, and they're all trying to settle into their new home, and then over the course of the story, the family dynamic will kind of change. For me, The Spiderwick Chronicles comes off as kind of a wannabe Narnia movie. It kind of feels like it wants to be the Chronicles of Narnia. It feels like a slightly younger version of that. And even then, Narnia is a film that's aimed for younger people, well, families. I say that because the whole idea of them moving into this new home, you know, brother and sisters, discovering this magical world and having to be the ones to sort of stop it. This story isn't as grandiose or as epic as something like the Chronicles of Narnia, but it's a fun time. That's all I can say. It's a fun time, and kids will definitely be entertained. It's 90 minutes, breezes by. It's an easy watch, but I don't think it's anything amazing. I do really like the performances, though. I think that Freddie Highmore is obviously the standout, as he plays both Jared and Simon. But we mainly focus on Jared, so I don't think we don't really get to see that much of Simon. He's kind of sidelined because Jared takes up more time in the story. But I think he plays both of them quite well. But I would have liked to have seen more screen time with Simon, to be honest. Sarah Bolger, who plays Mallory, she's excellent in this film. She's very good. She's a very sort of feisty sister. She's quite bossy, but she ends up being quite likable towards the end, and she does, let go of the reins a little bit and starts to trust her brothers a bit more. Her and Jared really don't get along. It turns out that Sarah Bolger is actually Irish, and she puts on pretty much a perfect American accent. As well, Freddie Highmore puts on an American accent, so the accents are very good and very impressive, I must say, and she's pretty good with the sword as well. I'll give her that. We also have Seth Rogen as Hogsqueal. I mean, Seth Rogen is not really an inspired casting choice, to be honest. I mean, he's okay. He's the comic relief character, and he does what he's meant to do. And it's Seth Rogen. What else can I say? It's not exactly. It's a very safe piece of casting, to be honest. And as a character, he's all right. He more or less fits in with the world, and yeah, I don't mind him. We also have Thimbletack, who's this little creature called a brownie. He's kind of like a mouse sort of creature. He kind of scurries through the walls, and then when he gets angry, he turns into this thing called a boggart, and he turns green, and then they have to give him honey and crackers to calm him down. He's kind of an amusing character. He's voiced by Martin Short, incidentally, so he does quite a good job there. Bolger, voiced by Nick Nolte. Yeah, he's fine. Again, generic villain. Not much to his character whatsoever. He's got no development whatsoever, but like I said, this movie is probably more aimed for kids and families, and I don't think young kids are going to care too much. But from a filmmaking point of view, he's a very underdeveloped villain, but he's performed well enough, I suppose. The ogre is his true form, but he's a shape-shifting ogre as well. I don't understand that. David Strathairn as Arthur Spiderwick, he's also good. He doesn't get too much to do in the film, but when he appears, he's quite good. As well as Joan Plowright, who plays Lucinda, the older version of Lucinda. They go to see her in this care home, and they go to get more information about the guide, and also where to find Arthur Spiderwick, because Arthur Spiderwick wasn't killed as such. He was abducted by the fairies and the sprites and taken away to this land where he didn't age, and he has no perception of time anymore because he knew too much about the world. And lastly, Mary-Louise Parker as Helen Grace, who's the mother of the kids. She's quite good. Again, she has a very small role, but she's good. I think the look of this film is really interesting with all the CGI and everything, and the goblins and Bolger. The design aspect of the movie is great. It's got very good aesthetics, and the world, the visuals of the world are impressive. Like, the aesthetics are really, really, really nice, which is why it disappoints me so much that we don't get to know more about this world. And it's a real missed opportunity, to be honest. The direction by Mark Waters is good, but like I say, he could have. I think if this film was maybe 2 hours long, we could have had a bit more going on in terms of the world building, like Jared kind of discovering the world, like that sort of element of the film could have been expanded on, in my opinion. I suppose it's a good reason for me to read the book, but at the same time, from a filmmaking point of view, like, yeah, I just think it's a waste of potential. And I suppose the music score is also quite good. I do like the music. So overall, I don't have much else to say. I think this is a good film. It's decent, and it will do. It's a fun time. I'd recommend it to any kids and young families. I think they would really much enjoy it. There's some great performances, and the actors do a terrific job, particularly Freddie Highmore and Sarah Bolger. They are very, very good. So I will score the Spiderwick Chronicles. I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a good watch, but it's nothing amazing, and it definitely tries to be quite a lot like the Chronicles of Narnia, in my humble opinion. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I thought I'd throw in a movie review, and I just chose this movie at random. I just saw it on my shelf, and I thought, you know what, I'll stick it on and watch it and review it. It's about time I did so. But anyway, thank you very much, and as always, I'm Mr. TARDIS11. See you soon. Bye for now.